Sup, it's Penuel the Black Pen. So I watched the episode on Podcast and Chill with Gogo Skhotheni, Tumi, as the guest. She was being interviewed by MacG, and then Usol Penduga was in the background. I'm still getting to learn who Gogo Skhotheni is. I'm hoping in the coming weeks to sit with her, either on her platform, the Venting Podcast, or on my platform, the Penwell Show. We'll see how it goes. I think she's got a lot to teach. I think we've got a lot to learn. And I think it would make for a great conversation. I saw a few clips on TikTok. I saw a few clips, and on Twitter, X, on sound bites from the sit down on Podcast and Chill. And I liked what I had to hear. She sounds honest. She sounds clear. She sounds like she has a rational mind. She's willing to be challenged, and she's willing to question and challenge other Sangomas. So I found that refreshing. I was like, no, man, let me watch the whole thing. What tends to happen at Podcast and Chill episodes is I only watch the ones that tend to trend. It could be Toles Mo, it could be Israel Matseke Zulu, it could be Uzola 7, it could be Zex Bantuini. The ones that people normally talk about, and where when I listen to the sound bites and those things, I'm like, I think I want to know more. Then I go and I sit and I watch the whole thing. I wrote down notes of some of the issues I had with the sit down, and they are in no particular order, and it's just me just sharing some of my thoughts. So one of the things Gogo Skhotheni says is that Ubungoma is a scam. And Sol Penduka's like, but you is Sangoma, so are you a scam? And she's not really clear on answering that. But what comes across is her almost saying she's a real Sangoma and other people are not. The one thing I will agree with her on, and it's something that has been discussed before, is so many celebrities and popular people are being diagnosed with depression, and then all of a sudden it gets misinterpreted as a calling. That you must now go and, your ancestors want to speak to you, or they want to use you as an instrument, etc. Gogo Skhotheni says that, if you have a gift, you are born with it. And to her, how she explains a gift is, ancestors speak to you through dreams. Amaphupho. So if you've been having dreams since you were a child, different people speaking to you, whether you know them or not, different visions where you end up wanting to get an understanding, or you want to tell whoever was in the dream or whoever might be affected, that means you have a gift. Many of us have dreams. Dreams are things that are very difficult to explain. And her argument is, if you've been having dreams since you were a child, you have a gift. Someone may identify in the way you speak and explain and interpret other people's dreams even, that I think you have a gift, and maybe you need to go through a process of sharpening and honing that skill, which is then the process of Uktwas. Now, when she says it's a scam, I got disturbed, because the main theme for me in why I had issues with her perspective is Gogo Skhotheni has a certain view on what Ubungoma is. She has a certain view on how Izangoma should behave, etc., etc. But it is her view. Now, when she speaks as if her view is the view and the only correct one. And I am not a Sangoma. I am not a practitioner of African customs. I am not necessarily big on African spirituality, but I'm a student of life. I've got many friends about Zangoma. I've sat with healers. Zangoma is Inyanga. I've sat with African spirituality leaders and practitioners of African customs. I can say that many people have different interpretations. She links Ubungoma, or she compares Ubungoma to religion. And she says she is born again, but she's not a Christian. Because she says Ubungoma now has become a religion, like Christianity is a religion. And I think I understand what she's trying to say. She has an issue with the systems that have been built by man to try and interpret and create these rules around a belief system and spirituality. I understand that criticism. But the problem is, almost when you bash the religion and the systems, you are bashing the various forms of those interpretations and understandings. What do I mean? I mean, there may have been a child who has been born maybe with the gift of dreams, understanding, having dreams, interpreting them, etc. I believe other people can have dreams come to them at a later period in their lives where all of a sudden I dream more. And all of a sudden my dreams are becoming more vivid. They're becoming more clear. And all of a sudden, because of my life experiences, because of my traumas, because of my journey, I actually think I can interpret other people's dreams more. That does not now necessarily mean, no, you weren't born with it, therefore you are not. It just means it is your perspective. And now to call Ubungoma a scam is almost saying any profession that has to do with healing is a scam. Because my understanding of Ubungoma, it is that it is healing. Ubungoma, okay. Ubungoma compared to a religion, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, can be used as a form of healing. However, it also comes through as a lifestyle. This is a guide to life. Ubungoma, ukuba inyanga, is healing almost purely. Yes, they may guide you on how to live. What do I mean by that? I mean, a medical doctor from the Western side is a healer, a modern healer. But they may prescribe a way to live. Make sure that you are eating healthily. Make sure that you are exercising. Stay away from dirty spaces. Make sure that you're reading the right things so that you protect your mind, etc. So they can prescribe a lifestyle and a life guide, like religion. However, it is focused on healing. Ubungoma is healing. Izinyanga are herbalists, what the modern day pharmacist is. They heal through herbs, largely, by and large herbs, and they sometimes heal through things like water, things to drink, etc. Sometimes they can even steam. Now, even in the modern era, you have got herbs that are prescribed either in a tablet form or maybe in a liquid form in medicine. You can go to what's called Eastern medicines, where there are things like incense, burning impepo, etc. But it is healing through herbs, through liquids, etc. Ubungoma is now healing outside of these tangible things. It is healing where to some people it is healing through song. Ubungoma comes from ingoma. Ingoma is a song in Nguni languages, to sing. So they can be healing through singing. And understand, man, you could listen to gospel today. You could listen to certain R&B. You could listen to someone with just a beautiful voice, Jennifer Hudson, Beyonce Knowles, anyone. And when you listen to them, oh my gosh, you get goosebumps in real time. You get goosebumps, you find yourself crying. You find yourself missing someone in your life that you cherish, etc. So that can be healing through song, and people can heal through song. And the songs could include things like drums, where you are beating these drums, or you are playing this guitar, you are playing this piano, you're listening to these strings, the violins that get you so emotional. Healing through song. Then there is healing, of course, through interpreting dreams. I am disturbed in my soul, in my spirit. I have been having these dreams about my grandmother. And Sangoma, like a doctor, where you're like, my throat has been getting sore, I've been coughing a lot, I can't sleep, I sweat. You go to Sangoma and you say, look, I've been sweating, I have these dreams, I don't understand what's going on. And then Sangoma will throw bones. Sangoma will listen to you, will ask questions, will look at your demeanor. And they will maybe be like, look, this is what I'm feeling as a Sangoma because I've got this gift of being a healer. As in Sangoma do also practice Ubunyanga, where as much as they may heal through other spiritual aspects, they can also prescribe certain medicines, herbs, liquids to drink, practices like sleeping, etc., steaming and the like. So that is my understanding. It is not only a person who has dreams, it is not only a person who interprets dreams. That's the first note. Having dreams, getting a calling, ukutwasa, celebrities who get depressed and then want to be Sangoma. White people buy a twasa today, 25,000 rand. One of the things Skhotheni raises very correctly is Ubungoma has become this money-making scheme. And it is not just Ubungoma. Therapy. Therapy historically was not meant to be a money-making scheme. I need to go see a therapist, but therapists charge 1,000 rand an hour. Doctors were not meant to be a money-making scheme where they prescribe certain meds and they prescribe chronic medication. Come see me, let's get a procedure. Nah. Similarly, Ubungoma now has become this money-making scheme. And worse, it is a money-making scheme where the people arguably don't even go through a proper process. As long as you're willing to pay that 10,000 rand, Gogo Skhotheni says she charges 25,000 rand, you'll go through the process of Twasa and they'll try and unearth this gift in you, these dreams, and how to burp accordingly, and how to understand the vibes and the vibrations. But it's a money-making scheme, and unfortunately many people have fallen trapped to it. When you are not well in your soul, it could mean anything. And luckily Gogo Skhotheni is happy to embrace that. She says this thing of burping. You could be burping because you're hungry, you could be burping because you're full. It's not ancestors speaking to you, abantu abadala, your forefathers. It could be anything. You could be burping because you've been drinking a lot of certain liquids. Even your sleeping habits, the fact that you're sweating when you're sleeping, it could be that too many blankets. It could be that your room is hot, it needs some type of ventilation. The idea of being sick, it can't be physical, where it is the food you're eating. We have food allergies. Sometimes you vomit. There are people that are lactose intolerant, people that get a rash, etc. Could be a physical thing. It could be a psychological thing. It does happen that maybe you're going to write an exam and you start getting anxious and it affects your breathing and all of a sudden you want to faint. It's anxiety. It could be that you're going to get married soon and all of a sudden you're dizzy and you're nauseous. That is psychological, but it affects your physical. And it could be what people argue as spiritual. And what I'd like to call spiritual is either environment. So you are in a space that is fighting your body. You are an African, you come from the equator, from hot environments, and you find yourself in cold environments, and your body is reacting to, I'm not used to this environment. It is too humid, it is too hot, I feel like I can't breathe, or the air is too dry. I'm struggling. So it could be environmental. It could be pollen, you're sneezing a lot, hay fever. It could be you're in a space with many animals and the fur and those things are affecting you. It could be something that I believe is ancestral, which we could always also call spiritual. Your forefathers didn't eat certain foods based on where they were raised. They could have been vegetarian. They could have been vegan. They could have been pescatarian. So they're not used to this diet, and that's why you keep having these allergies and these rashes and you keep vomiting, because historically your family didn't eat these foods. It is not a direct your ancestors speaking. It is your genetic coding, yes, your ancestors' habits, speaking to you and saying, I do not want to eat this. My body is not used to this type of food. And then your body reacts in that way. And then there can be dreams. And dreams I can speak about a bit later and my views. Ubungoma is a religion and not a custom. I love the fact that she separates Ubungoma as a gift and healing versus customs. So many people see the burning of incense, the slaughtering of a goat, the making of African beer, mqombothi. They see that as now parts of Ubungoma. No. I have to agree with her. And again, I need to highlight that these are our interpretations. The next Sangoma, the next African spirituality leader, practitioner, they will say this, they will interpret it differently. This is my opinion. I agree with Gogo Skhotheni on her opinion. To say that when you are burning incense, it is no different to lighting nice smelling candles in your house. It is no different to burning incense, which elicits a nice fragrance in the home. For people to smoke weed, it is no different to smoking weed or burning marijuana in your home to try and calm people down, because weed is a form of psychedelic that has been proven through modern medicine to have an impact on your psychological and emotional state. So burning incense is literally to in a space to create an ambiance. Now that ambiance, obviously, if you smell it, will make you feel a certain way, like weed, like incense, like nice smelling, fragranced candles. Now, your ancestors have been burning the same thing. Your mother, your father, your grandparents, your great-great, they've been burning the same thing. So it is a familiar smell. It is the same with certain meats. If your family has been eating mutton over the years, over the generations, it only holds that when you eat mutton, you'll be like, this is a familiar taste. It is something that is encoded in your DNA. Now, there's a difference, of course, between customs and Ubungoma. Ubungoma is healing. There's a difference between, let's say doctors wash their hands, or doctors sanitize, or doctors wear a mask. Now, when you put on a face mask, when you wash your hands and sanitize, when you put on gloves, those are practices. That does not make you a doctor. It is a practice, it is a custom. When you are slaughtering a goat to thank your ancestors, to ask them to light the way, to bless you, that is a custom. It is not a Ubungoma. It is not the process of healing. It is not the process of interpreting dreams. So that distinction, I think, is very important. And I'm so glad that she raised that. I agree with her. She asked a pertinent question. Why do Izangoma do the same things even though they have different backgrounds? And I think there was a slight hypocrisy on her side because, again, she's highlighting the difference between Ubungoma as a religion, practice, career versus customs. Now, she speaks to Mekchi, which, you're from Limpopo, you could be Chitsonga, you could be Shivenda. I am Umzulu, I am Umxhosa, I'm Umndebele. Why is it that when we go through the process of Uktwasa, we're slaughtering the same animals, even though where we come from, our families, our ancestors slaughtered different animals? Why is it that we're wearing the same outfits, of which she highlights very correctly that these outfits are not even African? There are Indian stores, there are white-owned stores, there are Chinese stores selling these things that you now call Sangoma outfits, and they all look the same. It's a uniform. And the reality is it is a uniform. So once you go into this space, you are a modern doctor, you are healing, you're going to wear the white coat. You're going to have a stethoscope around your neck. It is the uniform. Now it looks like Izangoma have kind of agreed that this is going to be our uniform, even though it should not be universally that way. It does not need to be that Izangoma all dressed the same. Myself and DJ Spoo sat on the Hustler's Corner with Gogo Skhotheni. And she was also highlighting that I can wear my Louis Vuittons, I can wear my Gucci's, I can wear my Maxhosa, whatever it is I want to wear. That has almost got nothing to do with my gift. I do not need to wear these scarves and these cloths. And then that is no. That is not it. So for some people, it is an identifier. And there's nothing wrong with identifiers. Dave Chappelle cracks a nice joke where he says, the way a woman is dressed does not mean she's a slut or a prostitute. No, you can dress however you want, lady. It's your body, it's your agency. But there's something called a slut prostitute uniform. Short skirt, your bum is half hanging out the back. You've got tattoos on your lower back. You've pierced your nostrils and your ears and maybe your tongue. You've got a belly ring. And the way your boobs are kind of showing the cleavage. We're like, look, you might be a nun. You could be the most holy, clean, decent woman. But we accustom that type of look to girls who are promiscuous and. In the same way, Dave Chappelle says, if we're in a space and someone drops down unconscious, foaming on the mouth, and you're wearing a white coat and you've got a stethoscope around your neck and maybe you're wearing a mask, people are going to be like, Doc, please help us. You're like, why would you think I'm a doctor? What about me? You're like, but it's the way you're dressed. Oh, because I'm dressed like this, I'm a doctor. You're like, we're really sorry. We didn't know. It's just the outfit. Dr. Matthew Lani. It's the outfit. Our bad. So I think what Izangoma have done, or the people that are, or Gobela, Indumba, of the people that are leading these people, they are saying, look, to be identified in society, walk barefoot, have ipandla, which are the skins around the arms, wear some of these beads, maybe do your hair in a certain way, wear certain necklaces, etc., intambo, and then wear these cloths. And then people be like, oh, he might not be Sangoma, but he is wearing the Sangoma uniform, and it is easy to identify him or her. So that is very, very important. The uniform. But you do not need to wear the uniform. You can dress however your culture, your tribe, your family dresses, even with your gift. She mentions that you can't give Izangoma what you don't eat, which is very tricky for me because so many people slaughter goats, slaughter sheep, slaughter cows, slaughter chickens. And you may find that your ancestors were vegetarian, were vegan as an example. My mother doesn't like eggs. My mother doesn't like seafood. Now, if I am thanking and congratulating my mom, whether I have a gift or not, why would I want to fry eggs or have scrambled eggs? Why would I want to have crab and lobster? Oh, on behalf of my mother or my grandmother that's passed on, let me have this crab lobster. You're like, well, she didn't enjoy that. So you're almost like spitting in her face. But now on the other hand, if your ancestors were meat eaters and loved meat, but you've chosen to be a vegetarian or vegan or plant-based, should you not be slaughtering animals just because your forefathers, your predecessors did so? I don't know. How do you celebrate people? It's almost this argument of love. Do I love you according to your love language, or do I love you according to my love language? I think buying flowers is silly. I would rather buy you a meal. I would rather buy you an item of clothing, something practical. But your love language is, I want flowers. I want you to tell me you love me. Now, do I love you at your level or do I love you at my level? So similarly with ancestors, if you're trying to speak to them, if you're trying to cherish them, if you're trying to thank them, they gave birth to you, but do you thank them eating what you eat, which is plant-based? Or do you force yourself to eat meat when they didn't? Or if they did, so where do you meet them? And I think that's a conversation that's worth noting. She speaks about inyoka noktwala. People say people that are rich, by Atwala, they have these snakes in their homes. And she says, in her opinion, that these are not real snakes. These are just ideas of snakes. And I think that's very important for people to understand that evil is not always tangible. I do not need to have red eyes and tattoos on my face and tongue piercing for you to be like, oh, I think he is evil. There are people that are evil in the way they are dressed, in the things they have. A person having a snake does not mean they are evil. A person slaughtering a goat does not mean they believe in voodoo worship. A person burning incense does not mean that they are trying to send a curse to someone. So we need to see beyond. Having a snake is having a snake. You love pets. Your children like snakes. But there's a more metaphoric snake in terms of the evil that you possess as a person. There's a difference between ubungoma and abaThakathi. So, Sangoma is a traditional healer, a spiritual healer, a healer through song and through other methods. Inyanga is a herbalist, a pharmacist, a traditional, modern, organic pharmacist. Abathakathi is a witch doctor, is a wizard, it's a witch, it's an evil person. They do the curses, they do the poisons, they do the... Sangoma is a positive healer. Abathakathi is a negative person who sends curses. But abanye abaThakathi can help you cleanse yourself even of evil curses and spirits that have been sent. So it's very important to identify the difference, of which Gogo Maweni has said openly that she practices witchcraft, buloyi, tarata other people and to make people, to manipulate people to negative ends. So that's very important. And in that conversation of ubungoma and abaThakathi, Gogo Skhotheni speaks about love potions. She says she endorses love potions. If it is a couple that is happy, that is healthy, you want your person to love you and. abaThakathi now is trying to force, it's without consent. I want to manipulate this person to love me, to want me, to only look at me, bega mina ngedwa. So that is not a good thing. So that's the difference between ubungoma and abaThakathi. Muthi that is good versus Muthi that is bad, in the same topic of ubungoma and abaThakathi. And I put notes here, links. Muthi that is good versus Muthi that is bad. Now, Muthi is medicine, direct translation. But when people say Muthi, it's, oh, this evil. No. So medicine can be good or bad, even in the modern sense. There are medicines that have side effects. Some of the side effects are really, really harsh and severe. You can throw up, you can have nausea, you can maybe fall into depression, you can harm yourself. Some of the medicines that are out there, modern medicines that have been tested by science and scientists. Muthi can also do the same. You can have an allergic reaction, you can have a rash, you can vomit, it can make you really, really ill. Just because Muthi has side effects or negative sides does not mean it is bad Muthi. I need you to understand this. There is poison, which is intended for bad, for evil. Poison, no good from there. Then there's good medicine that does and heals people, but that can have side effects. So that's important. That's the one part. Now, medicine is actually a broad term. Fetching certain herbs and gingers and eucalyptus leaves and even lemons and honey, that can be medicine. Cloves, garlic, that can be medicine. But medicine can go beyond and be food. It can be certain fragrances and smells. Because what is medicine for? It is meant to heal. It is meant to elicit certain responses and reactions, similar to poison as well for abaThakathi. So medicine is broad. Food can be a form of medicine. And some of the best doctors, modern, traditional, organic, whatever, some of the best doctors focus very much on diet and food and some type of exercise more than the prescribed stuff. That's why today we've got cannabis, where even back in the day, certain doctors could recommend marijuana tea, cannabis tea, because it has got certain properties that are good to clean the lungs, especially for people with asthma, for breathing and the like. If you steam with eucalyptus gum tree, which is what they use in Vicks, if you steam with it, if you inhale it, it can clear the nasal passages when you have a blocked nose. If you drink lemon with honey, with ginger, it can soothe a sore throat. It has properties to cleanse some of the germs and the bacteria that's there. So food can be medicine. Now, not just food, and this is where my notes are. When you speak about Muthi, whether good or bad, you've got things like spices. There are certain delicious spices where when you eat them in a biryani, in a curry, you're jiving, you're like, hey, why is this meal so good? Come on now, delicious. There are certain spices, certain curry powders, etc., which when the children eat them, especially children, they've got a rash. What did this child eat? No, they had iraja. Oh, what did this child eat? No, they had tin fish. There were some spices or there were some sauces in there which gave the child a reaction. That is not poison. It just means the child is allergic and they don't vibe with that type of food, that type of meat, etc. So spices, sauces. There are certain perfumes which when you smell them, they are a form of Muthi. Imagine your grandmother used a certain perfume and you loved her so much. And every time you smell, you get a whiff of this perfume somewhere. You're like, I remember like I miss my grandmother. It could be a perfume. It could be something like a Stay Soft, a Comfort, these softness, this washing powder that she used. Ooh, this reminds me of my grand. I mean, people that clean their stoops with Ecopra polish. That smell, sunlight green bar. Like, oh, I just remembered my uncle's home. Because of that, those smells. So certain perfumes, similarly, these perfumes, you could put them on and you can have a reaction and an allergy and a sore because the perfume is not good. Certain perfumes, if you ingest them, you start sneezing like, oh, what a horrible smell. Maybe they remind you of someone that violated you at some point. He smelled of X, of English blazer. He smelled of this cologne. So whenever I smell this thing, I tense up in real time and I have a panic attack because of this perfume. Weed, marijuana, I've spoken about. Incense, I've touched on. I wanted to speak about deep heat. Deep heat is this ointment that is used to relieve muscle pain. Now, Sangoma and those guys, they prescribe certain ointments and certain concoctions. And people are like, these things don't work. It's like, yeah, but when I put it on, all of a sudden I feel hot. As a woman, maybe you rub this thing between your thighs and you start getting hot. And you're like, this is witchcraft. No, it's not. Because when you put deep heat on, you can feel the warmth. What that means is that there is medicine that can in real time make your body feel hot, that can make your body feel cool, some type of cooling gel. Now, Sangoma, abaThakathi can create similar concoctions using herbs and liquids and things. And if you put these things on, they make you feel a certain way. Now you think of things like lubricants and lubrication. If you're going to Sangoma or Inyang, you're like, I want something to spice up my sex life. They're like, no, rub this thing on your penis. Rub this thing, watch out, put this thing inside your vagina. It's similar to modern medicines that, maybe increase lubrication, that maybe like a Viagra, increase your performance, etc. These are medicines that exist. So deep heat I was using as an example of modern medicine that can elicit a feeling. You can have traditional medicines as well that can make you feel hot, cold, that can make you sweat, and lubrication I spoke about, eucalyptus and steaming, I think I touched on. Med lemon, which comes from lemon, which is an acid that is used to clean household items. I mean, you see it in your handy andies and like, now if you drink it because of the acid, it's got these properties that cleanse you and kill germs versus poison medicines with side effects and allergies. Okay. Then Skhotheni spoke about how she is a praying woman versus Ubuntu. I think I touched on that. She's religious, she's spiritual, I believe. But then she also has this gift. And it's important that once we start understanding and segmenting these things, we're not seeing them as a clash. I saw Palisa, I'm not sure of her surname, the mother of the child of Usomizi, Ubahumi, I think is the daughter's name, Bahumi's mom, who now was cutting up her Sangoma outfit and burning it and praying and singing gospel and speaking in tongues. Guys, I think there's so much misunderstanding out there and it makes me sad. Ubungoma, my opinion, my definition, is healing outside of just traditional tangible items. You can have gifts that can be interpreted as an African child, and maybe even as a white person, because white people, you could be having these dreams. That is your gift. It is something you have. It is something you hone. And you can spend time with other people who interpret gifts, and you guys can do knowledge sharing, or you can read books. And you can be like, I can interpret gifts. I can also, when I speak to my ancestors, the people that made me, or when I'm in the energy of someone else, and I'm like, tell me your problems, I will see if I can have a dream about your problems, and maybe your ancestors or my ancestors will help me interpret this dream, and then I'll call you back and say, listen, let us have a chat. That is a gift. It is not meant to clash with Christianity, that you believe Jesus Christ was the Son of God and he came on earth and he spread the gospel and he died to cleanse himself as a sacrifice for our sins, which some people could also interpret as witchcraft. Why would you have to sacrifice a life to cleanse for others? There's a story of Isaac, I believe, where God is instructing him to sacrifice his son instead of a ram. And then later on, God is like, jokes, you got punked. No, please don't sacrifice your son. But people would do these things, what they call pagan worship and the like. We sacrifice today, of course, it's not human beings, even though some do. But we sacrifice poor innocent animals, chickens, goats, sheep, cows. So some type of sacrifice. Now that is under religion. In the Roman Catholic Church, they have their own incense. They have the eating of the body of Christ. Oh boy. They have the eating of the body of Christ. There's prayers and those things. So you can have a gift of dreams. You can be religious. You can be spiritual. You can be a herbalist and be inyanga. You can go and study and get your MBCHB and become a medical doctor and maybe go specialize. You can be a nurse. You can be a pharmacist. You can have all these things. They can coexist. They're not meant to clash. The clashing comes in now if you're having dreams from your ancestors saying, don't do this. And this they're telling you not to do is what science has told you. You need to perform the surgery. A woman is struggling maybe to fall pregnant. You've told her, we need to give you fertility supplements. We need to try this thing. And then you have these dreams. And these dreams are saying, don't give her that. The dreams are saying, don't go through this process. The dreams are saying, let her maybe drink this traditional medicine. Let her eat this type of food. Let her spread herself or bath herself in the river doing this. That's where there might become a clash. And once people understand these different gifts and abilities, we can progress medicine further and healing further. I've got friends, two of them in particular, who are both Sangoma. They've gone through the process of Uktwasa. They practice and they consult. And they are also modern doctors. They are medical doctors. The beauty is meant to be this merger of African spirituality with modern Western medicine. And hopefully in time, they'll also study homeopathy and they'll also study Eastern medicine as well, so that they create this modern, it's almost like penalism, my belief system, which borrows from the best of other religious and belief systems and cultural practices and says, here's something modern. So we can come up with a modern way of medicine and be like, look, Western medicine has got its limitations. Look, African medicine has also got its limitations. Look, Eastern medicine has also got its limitations. How do we borrow from some of these things and say, look, at a basic level, let's start you off with just go home and rest and sleep, drink water. If you're not getting better, okay, let's try you, drink some honey, gurgle salt water, maybe eat some garlic, maybe have some ginger tea, etc. If that's not working, come back. Let us now start you off on these tablets or this medicine. If not that, maybe let's put you through this process. Let's maybe go through some therapy. What's going on at home? Have you been having bad dreams? Did someone pass away? Maybe your ancestors want you to do something. So let's slaughter something. And you go through the process, through the whole thing and say, I went through the process from the most basic. This was all Western and African and Eastern and other medicine and other healing processes. I went to church and I sang gospel. Then I went to sit with the Sangoma and they were playing drums. I went to a place and I was dancing and I was sweating and then I went to visit my own family and I hugged my grandmother and my grandfather. I got to learn about my family history. I went home and I ate my mother's cooking. I went to go and spend time with my children and we had a chat. I went on a holiday. In Palas, I was vomiting so that I could cleanse my system. I was detoxing. I was steaming. I went to a day spa and I got a beautiful deep massage. And then I changed the lotion that I used. Then I stopped bathing for 2 weeks. Then I stopped brushing my teeth. Then I brushed my teeth with Sensodyne. Then I started using this new thing for my hair. I went through this whole thing because I was trying to cleanse myself and to heal. And I had the dreams and I meditated and I was like, I will become better. And that becomes now the most advanced form of healing and medicine that we have. And it is not beefing with anyone else. I think that is very important. This becomes my beliefs, and I don't even know if I really want to go into this, but I will. So this is maybe my closing. Gogo Skhotheni is articulate, she's clear, she sounds rational. I like her. She speaks well, she's cute as well, she's got pretty privilege. The power of words and storytelling. I believe formal language is the greatest human invention. It is also the most dangerous human invention because with words we can build and we can destroy. The power of words and storytelling, influencing minds and getting people to behave in a certain way. You sit down with a Gogo Skhotheni in one sitting and she convinces you to abandon your belief systems. You sit with an Andrew Tate and you listen to him speak once and all of a sudden you're like, the systems are lying to us. We have been lied to. You sit with a Sadhguru and he makes you believe you must visit India and spend time with the gurus. You sit down with a Buddhist and they make you understand nirvana and they, namaste. They understand that peace be with you and within you. You go and you sit with an imam and they make you understand that Islam is the right thing. I want to learn Arabic. I want to read the Quran. I want to be the embodiment and to live like Prophet Muhammad and Allah. You go and you sit with a devout Christian and they tell you about the beauty of Jesus Christ and his beautiful message of love and peace. You go and you sit with a Jewish person and they tell you about the teachings of Moses who freed the Israelites from the Egyptians. And you read the Torah and you want to learn Hebrew. That is the power of words. Those same words can destroy where now you have to pick between Ukraine and Russia. You are told that this is South Africa. On this patch of land, you're in South Africa. Soon as you walk across 2 steps, now you're in Zimbabwe. No, you need to go through a border. What is your country? My country beat your country. But you literally live on the border. You're there by Musina. You're there on the border, but you're like, I'm a South African. The Springboks won. What has Zimbabwe's national team done? But then back in the day, you were Zimbabwean, this guy's Zambian, but you were all part of one Rhodesia. Because of the power of words and language that can be used to destroy. This is Palestine, this is Israel, this is the Gaza Strip, this is the land of my forefathers. No, this is our land. You are encroaching. And someone through the propaganda makes you believe that the West is better than BRICS. No, BRICS is fighting against the Europeans. No, you are colonized by these people. No, but I am a Zulu man, therefore Shaga is my ancestor. No, but Shaga defeated tribes. No, but Umshweshwe owns Lesotho. That is the power of words and storytelling. Gogo Skhotheni and other Sangoma have the gift of story. Good therapists, psychiatrists have the power of story. Good pastors and preachers in their churches, Bushiri, Omboro, and all these guys, T.D. Jakes, Bishop T.D. Jakes, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, they have the gift of words and storytelling. Joel Austin can take it all the way even into hip-hop. Kanye West, Tupac Shakur, Lauryn Hill, Andre 3000, Jay-Z. Power of storytelling, J. Cole. Language is magic, according to me. It is real-time magic. Language is Muthi. I spoke about healing through song. Song is words, obviously with vibration, and it flows in a certain way. I know just how you feel. I just can't give up now. You know, you've got to Iron Dantanzi. Wena we Jesu be basuga bae zweni basuga bae zweni. So those are words, and that is song that is vibrating at a certain frequency and flows in a certain way. But language can be Muthi. Language and story can be healing. You sit and you watch a podcast and you listen to someone narrating the story of being raised by a single mother and how their mother went through all these struggles and overcame and raised these 3 amazing children. The mother's name was Umamsi. This mixed race child whose father was this Indian Muslim man, Hussein Chota Amin, whose mother was this Zulu woman, Umaria Temba Miaga, and how she was judged based on her skin. And she met this really abusive man, Ufinia Zwelakhe Mlotshwa. And there are these three amazing children. Penuel, meaning the face of God in Hebrew, Penson, and Penrose. And she raised these children to become these amazing people who went out and told story. She was a teacher. She was using language as magic to give children information and tools so that they can feed themselves, so that they can empower their minds, so that they can have confidence. And you listen to that podcast and you're like, I found myself having goosebumps and crying and thinking about my single mother or my single father and how they overcame adversity and struggle and became something so amazing. That is the magic and the Muthi of words. They heal. You find yourself, oh my God. When I was listening to my pastor preaching, I felt all my burdens. I felt the tension in my neck and in my shoulders going away. I was like, yes, Jesus. Yes, Father God. If you believe in ancestors, awungibonge ozitha awuntumbeza. Ngibonge Skhotheni, ngibonge Msizi, ngibonge wena Msongelwa, ngibonge nogogo ohluphekile, ngibonge openi ohlelo. It is words. Words, language is magic, language is umuthi at certain frequencies and speeds even. You can find someone telling you a story and maybe they're telling you a really, really great story, and the way they're telling it, you may not really grasp the story because of the way they tell. But then when that same person uses certain speeds, certain pauses, maybe even at different volumes, even certain languages might say bega ngesintu, esayivule, esayinega. All of a sudden that same story could be even in a masculine, feminine voice. Which do you trust more? It could be a story narrated in broken English, because if I speak to you in broken English, maybe my story of poverty carries better weight. The idea that as my mother was struggling in my childhood and we could not eat and we would wait for a piece of bread, and the struggles that we went through, my story catches or has more meaning to you and it affects your psyche better than if I'm speaking like with a twang and like telling you, bro, you know, I fucking come from struggle as well. Like we didn't really have bread and stuff. And like my mom really had a really tough time. And bro, like as a kid, I didn't know what was going on. Maybe it doesn't have as much weight. So at certain speeds, frequencies, volumes, tones, wrote a note about praise and worship and what it does for people, R&B and how it can strengthen a romantic relationship, how we call it bluza, reminiscing on a past relationship as soon as Brian McKnight comes on, as soon as Maxwell comes on, as soon as Eric Benet, Hurricane come on, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, like, ooh, my first girlfriend when I was 15, on a Valentine's ball with the fucking cards and the chocolates, you know, goosebumps. Memories evoked by certain musical words. Sometimes you hear a song and you're like, I've never heard this song before, but it feels like a song I've been listening through my whole life. If you watch the movie Cloud Atlas by the Wachowskis, you know, they have the Cloud Atlas Sextet, which is a piece of music which rings true over time. This could be a song, this could be a certain smell, this could be a certain spice, this could be a certain story, which over time gets remixed and reworked, but it still strikes the heart. The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, or Coelho, the Alchemist, the story of Noah and the Ark, the story of Samson and Delilah. These stories, the story of David and Goliath. You know, you've got same inganekwane ngesintu, ozi kwasuka sukela, and you tell these stories, and they over time they carry these deep messages. These Hansel and Gretel, which is a European, I think it might be a German story. There are similar stories from the East as well, and you see them now in Disney movies with Mulan, Simba, the Lion King, Kung Fu Panda, Chinese philosophy embedded in there. Very, very beautiful stories. Another great movie is it Coco? With the afterlife. It's a more of a Latino movie and how they believe in, you have different lives. You have this life on earth, you have an afterlife. People now start speaking about you have three deaths. The physical death, You have I don't know if it's the spiritual death. No, I think it's the death of the ego, where you are reborn in real life and you find your purpose. Then there's the physical death, I believe, where you die and then you go into the spirit world. And then in the spirit world, you die when people in the real world no longer speak about you, no longer remember you. You are no longer a memory. That becomes your last death, where even in the spirit world, you fade away. Very beautiful. The power of words and storytelling. Guy Ritchie, I have to give him a shout out. One of my favorite storytellers in his movies. You look at Snatch, you look at Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, you look at King Arthur, you look at, recently I was watching The Gentleman. Big on story. You can go and watch his sit down with Joe Rogan. You look at my favorite director, Christopher Nolan, and how he tells story. He reworked the story of Batman, Bruce Wayne, called him the Dark Knight. He went from just being Batman to the Dark Knight. He reworked the story of the Joker, and he gave the Joker a different feel, and he reworked villains completely in Hollywood with what he did with Heath Ledger, with what he did with one of the people he loves casting. What's this guy's name? He's a fantastic actor, Tom Hardy as Bane. You know, he had Liam Neeson as well in the first one, The Dark Knight Rises. You look at one of my other favorite directors, Fincher. How can I forget this guy's name? He did Gone Girl. He's been involved in Love, Death and Robots. David Fincher. Fight Club, one of my favorite movies of all time. These people are masters of storytelling. And if you tell a story the right way, using the right language, evoking the right emotions, making the right analogies, using the right tones, and you get to colonize minds. My favorite YouTube video is a TED Talk by Yuval Noah Harari, an Israeli man who wrote Sapiens, who speaks about the power of story and language and why it is the reason that human beings rule the world, and fiction, and how we've created these fictions like money, human rights, countries, sovereign states, which people place their entire lives on. Money, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, religion. These are man-made things. I put examples of words that can trigger emotions. The word kafir, when a white Afrikaner says it to a black person. That white Afrikaans person could say coffee, could say kaf her. Words that sound similar, but when they say kafir, just the change of the word and even the tone and the context. When an English person says to a white Afrikaner, you're just a Dutchman, that is a derogatory term. When an Afrikaans person says to an English person, hey, you fucking pommies. We had an incident now with Bongi Mbonambi and Tom Curry in England when the Springboks were facing England, where kant came up as a word. Kant is an Afrikaans word for side. Wit kant is a white side. But could he have been saying wit kant as in a white cunt? Cunt is a derogatory term for vagina and. So Tom Curry took offense. It's like, this person's being derogatory. Other people were like, no, you're speaking about side. It's the calls. It's an Afrikaans word. Mbongi Mbonambi was cleared of any foul play in that sense. But the power of words. There's a story about how Zinedine Zidane, when he got his red card for headbutting a gentleman, he was playing for France at the time. There's a story of how in a football World Cup, apparently the guy had said something derogatory about him or his mom or something. Just words. Just words. To Indian South Africans, the word kuli, Zulu, Onguni, or black people call them amakula. And to many of them, they don't even know that amakula is actually a derogatory term, a kuli. It is the equivalent of a kafir, a kafir. We say to Indian people or people from the Indian nation in South Africa, we call them amandia. We don't call them amakula. That is derogatory. Today we've obviously got Pakistani. We call all my friend. But derogatory terms, it's the power of language. And then my last point is going to be on dreams and the power of dreams, where I've spoken before as a panelist, my views on where we come from, why we're here and where we're going. And in that same conversation, I speak about simulation theory, which is captured in the movie The Matrix by the Wachowskis as well. How we live in a simulation and this is not really real. Simulation theory can be linked to Christianity or the Abrahamic faiths, where God is the knower of all things, He's the Alpha and the Omega. He knew what you were going to do before you even did it, which means you are living in a simulation and everything you are doing has already been pre-planned. It is almost a program that is just in a constant loop. So there's an argument for simulation theory, and in simulation theory, one of the arguments is the reason you are having certain dreams which come true is because it is the software that is uploading in your brain saying there is something coming in future that has been replayed before. When you're having a deja vu moment, it is because you have walked there before, because you're just rerunning the loop in the program and it is glitching. If you look at the Truman Show with Jim Carrey, it is just glitching because you've been here before. But deja vu could also mean your ancestors have walked there before. Deja vu could be that song that sounds so familiar. It is because your grandparents or your forefathers either heard that song in their youth, or it is a sampling like Kanye West, like AKA, may he rest in peace, or it is a rework of a song that was played in the past. You listen to people like Bruno Mars who make funk music that sounds like something you have heard before. And some of the sampling made in music, like, what is this song? Hey, this song is bumping. Like, this song is bumping because it was a hit back in the 80s, in the 70s, and the 60s. And that's why even everything in your being, because the song was so big globally, your entire being is vibing with the song. So dreams can become real. Those are going to be my thoughts, man. I want to give a shout out to Gogo Skhotheni. I want to give a shout out to MacGyver Mokwebo. I want to give a shout out to Solomzi Penduga and the whole team at Podcast and Show for that sit down. I think it was educational. And I hope that we will all continue to become better people, constantly seek understanding, constantly engage and challenge. We can actually change culture. We can break culture. We can create our own culture, our own customs, our own versions of what healing is meant to be. And we can see how these things work. It is really, really up to us. I'm hoping to sit soon with Gogo Skhotheni, Utumi, and we can have chats as well about some of her beliefs, some of her thoughts in the world as well. Penuel the Black Pen, the god of penalists, the founder of penalism. I love you guys very much, and I'll catch up with you guys again soon. Bonjour. Au revoir.